Hey everyone, it's Michael. I have a video here to talk about a topic that has made me laugh for like a year now, maybe closer to a year and a half. It's inspired by something my beautiful wife, Rachel, love you honey if you happen to be listening to this, she had told me about something a year ago, and I've been wanting to make a video about it, but really didn't know how to cover it until I could really gather my thoughts. And I know you're getting a lot of rant or discussion videos today from me, but I thought this was worth talking about, and I thought it was worth talking about to people who may or may not know about this, because it kind of stunned me when she first told me about it, because it's so stupid. You know, my wife loves to read, and she reads mainly romance. Sometimes she'll accidentally pick up a romance book that happens to be erotica, but she's actually caught on to the fact years ago of the book covers literally listing what the formula of the book is, what the trope of it is, because it's advertised that way now. And this is kind of along the lines, and I mentioned that I was going to make this video in my trigger warnings rant video, and how stupid that was. This is stupid too. This is less harmful, I think, than the trigger warnings thing is, but this is something even more brain dead, I think, than the trigger warnings thing. The trigger warnings thing is virtue signaling. This is stupid, ruining your book syndrome types of stuff. If you're an author who did the tropes thing on your cover of your book, I'm not trying to insult you directly, because it could have been a publisher option, for all I know. And I suspect that maybe publishers talked more writers into doing this nowadays, but you have to understand where I'm coming from. As a comic guy, as a manga guy, as a horror novelist guy, as a reader of Star Wars books, we don't have this. As far as I know, we don't have this. Maybe in sci-fi and fantasy, which I don't really read either of those much outside of Star Wars, outside of comics. Maybe that's more of a thing there. But in my general genres that I read, I had never heard of this shit before. So I have a lot to say about this. And to mock, mainly, because that's what I do. That's what I do best, matter of fact. So tropes. For anybody who doesn't know what this is, essentially it is the formula that your story will go. So for example, my wife, the one that introduced this conversation to me when she had brought this up as a funny thing, like I think a little bit closer to a year and a half ago, maybe longer, because we're almost into the summer now. So probably closer to 2 years ago, I'd say. When she first accidentally picked up an erotica book in the romance section, because they're just kind of smashed together now, she was telling me about how the cover brought up this thing called "Why Choose," right? Now, I thought she said "wide shoes," like shoes for your feet, and wide, like I have to have for my shoes. And she laughed, and she was like, "No, why choose?" And I was like, what the hell does that mean? So the general formula of that, anytime you see like "why choose" written on a book cover, for example, apparently it's when a girl has one or two, well in this case, two or more love interests, and it just becomes a groupsome. Not a threesome, not a foursome, it can be either of those things, but it usually could devolve into like a groupsome. And where there is like this polyamorous thing going on, you know? Which never works out in real life anyway, I guess. I've never known any person in my life who has tried this in a relationship. Not that I ever have, but that they have. It's never worked out for them. Not one time. But anyway, getting back to the formula thing, the trope thing here. Authors and publishers have decided that to try to market their books better, that they have literally put these phrases like "why choose" or "happily ever after," for example. There's that one on covers now that will literally, not only in the blurb of the back of the book, but like on the cover, will give away the ending of the book, that it will be a happy book, which is similar to the trigger warnings thing. You're giving away your story. Maybe the person doesn't know the ending before they read the book, but when they crack the book open, more than likely, because audiences are not stupid, no matter what you publishers, no matter what you writers may think, your readers are not idiots. They're not airheads. Stop pretending like they are. By the first couple of pages of a new novel, you could probably guess the ending. Now, to be fair with that audience, and my wife with the romance stuff, she knows and finds it very predictable because most of those things have a formula they stick with. But it's still ridiculous. Like, she, for example, gets really annoyed with the, like, happily ever ending book cover blurb things that explain that it's going to be a happy ending. So it's kind of like in the same assurance that, like, a Hallmark movie has. Girl in a small town meets a guy from small town. Maybe they were enemies back in the day. Maybe they're enemies now for, wanting the same job or something. It's Christmas time, and the magic of Christmas makes them fall in love. Maybe at one point after they've begun to fall in love, they have a little bit of an argument over cookies or a fucking Christmas tree or something, and then they kiss after they realize that everything was stupid and that they acted like children. And then they're back together and happily ever after. There's nothing wrong with formula. Let me make that clear. I have no issue with formula. But let me tell you on the other hand, I love surprises and stories. Do you know how many times my wife and I, when we got together in 2015, do you know how many times when she showed me Elf for the first time, the Will Ferrell Christmas movie? I don't know why I'm talking so much about Christmas today, but this is a great example of one I thought really applied to this situation. How many times did you see Elf, like I did, before you realized that it was essentially, even in actually directly referencing, but in its formula and its troping, it is a remake, a retelling of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? How long did it take you to realize that? It took me quite a while. I want to say like 5 or 6 or 7 viewings. I only realized this a few years ago. It was something that I realized. No one explained it to me. And I don't know if that's part of why it's considered such a big classic or whatever. I love the movie, and I like the original Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the many versions of that we've had in the past. And not just the one that you're thinking about from Rankin and Bass. We had animated ones and animated pictures with a song that used to be on black and white televisions back in the day for kids. We've had a lot of different versions of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But Elf is a retelling of that. Does it advertise that? Hell no. It's something you figure out in multiple viewings, using your brain and thinking through the storyline of that movie. There's nothing wrong with formula. There's nothing wrong with, in that case, taking something and retelling it. Think of, what is that one, the Wizard of Oz thing that's real big on Broadway that just got movie adaptations? Wicked. Wicked takes a story and turns everything on its head, where it makes the villain into a relatable main character of a storyline, but it took a story that already existed and it flipped that. And you had that like with the 3 Little Pigs and the wolf. I remember a book back in the day when I was in elementary school they read to us like that. Now, I hate what those ideas have done to culture, where no one can just be evil. No one can just be an evil, horrible character from like a Solomon Kane story, right? If there's a demon in the story, there's a chance that he's a sympathetic demon. You know what I mean? Can we just not have evil bad guys anymore? Getting back to the point of the video, though, tropes are fine for characteristics of books, but like, why would you want to spoil your formula, much less your ending, with these happily ever after ending things on book covers? Why would you want to spoil that for your audience? And again, usually that's in like the romance groups and other different types of tropes, not just the ones I brought up here for an example. But if it's a retelling of something, they literally listed in there that it is a retelling in the blurb. Dude, just let your audience think through the story. You know what I mean? Like, Christmas with the Cranks is not a direct retelling of A Christmas Carol, but there's a little bit of that in there. It's not a retelling, but there's a lot of inspiration from A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens story, in that movie. Or in that book, I guess, too, that it's adapted from John Grisham, who wrote Christmas with the Cranks, in case you didn't know that. Pretty cool little piece of trivia. No one ever knows that. But why would you want to spoil these things for your audience? The idea is that it's a marketing thing, like I said, to get the people who are interested in that kind of story to pick up the book. But, like, isn't that what cover art is for? Isn't that what the blurb on the back of the book is for? Again, you're acting like your audiences are idiots. And I don't know how much this could affect future books. And again, like with me, I'm a horror guy. I read a book series, or at least the first 2 books of a series recently, called Clickers. Clickers has a giant crab monster on the cover, so I assume it's a creature feature, and guess what? It is. That's the trope of that particular type of book. If I pick up a Richard Lehman book, typically he always wrote like regular reality-based serial killer stories for his novels, and they were really crazy, insane thrillers with really graphic stuff in them. By reputation alone, by one book alone, you pretty much know what you're getting with Richard Lehman, right? Those are tropes. Like, you kind of generally get what you're going to get with that, with the author's reputation if you know about them, and if you don't know, the blurb of the book can give that away. Why are we putting the tropes of the books on the covers in like a 2-word listing to ruin these things? Why would you want to do that? And again, I suspect a lot of the authors don't want to do that, but the publisher makes them for marketing, because that's usually out of the author's hands most of the time. But it's stupid, and it's stupid that it's done now. With that being said, though, think of it on the other hand. Maybe I'm an idiot, because romance sells more than like any novels out there now, because people stopped reading. We men have mostly stopped reading because nothing's being made for us anymore. And that's fair, I guess. If anybody else feels that way like I do, I mostly read older stuff now. I might read a newer manga here and there, and I might read some older comics, or some newer comics here and there. But most of what I read are like 10 years old and beyond backwards, you know, because of that. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe the romance publishers have something with this. You know, you look back in the day, like Western pulps and different sci-fi pulps and stuff. But I don't think they did what this does. I don't think they gave away the ending on the back of the book. Sometimes publishers did that because they had nothing to talk about on the back of the book for a boring, bad book. In fantasy, sci-fi, many a different thing. Some Stephen King books and Dean Koontz books have done this in the past, where they gave away the ending of the book just in quotes from other people on the backs of the paperbacks. I've had one. There's one for The Shining that gives away the ending of The Shining on it. I don't think that quote's been on another paperback since because of that. But why would you want to do that? You know what I mean? So anyway, what do you all think about tropes? I would love to hear your thoughts and comments about it down below, especially the really funny ones from romance and erotica and stuff. Let me know your funniest one from there, what your favorite jokingly is. If you happen to read either of those genres, and again, it's not an attack on you. I want to make that very clear. Again, my wife loves this stuff, and I love my wife because she's awesome. What do you think this made your life better or worse? And again, my wife hates the fact that she'll pick up a trope like listing and like they'll ruin the ending of the book with that. She hates that part. She doesn't mind the trope part as much, depending on what it is. Do you feel like as a reader, if you're someone out there, guy or girl, who reads these different genres, and even if sci-fi and fantasy do it, are you okay with that? With these, like, again, couple of word listings on a cover, telling you what the formula of this book would be like? I just want to know. Because it annoys me, you know, but I don't know. I guess because I wanted to be a writer at one point, that this kind of stuff I take more irritation towards, because I know that it's probably not a writer thing and more of a publisher thing. But I would still like to hear what you guys think. Does it help you pick out books that you like more? I want to know that answer too. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all, and thank you for the support on the trigger warnings rant video. I think that surprisingly did really well. I don't know if the reception was great aside from you guys in the audience. I think a lot of that was from people who don't watch the channel, but I don't think a lot of people liked all the stuff that I said. I got a couple of comments that were pretty hostile about my opinions, but a lot of you guys were super fucking funny in that comment section. We were all grabbing at our pearls laughing about it. So anyway, thank you guys for the support on the channel. So many of you came here in the last couple of months, and I'm so thankful for you. I hope God blesses you with a great day today. God bless you guys. Catch you later. Goodbye.